I can guarantee you one thing, this is going to be the most boring presentation today, so it only gets better after this. So as Ricardo said, I'm KooPee Hiltunen, I'm the director of Neogames Finland, which is the Finnish association for the games industry. And I'm also a board member in EGDF and also one of the founding fathers of the EGDF back in 2007. So that's basically what you should know about Neogames, non-profit Finnish games industry organization to accelerate the growth of the Finnish games industry. And if you think about EGDF, EGDF is also a federation. It's representing 22 European game developer countries or their trade associations. We have 24 members because there is some countries where we have 2 members. And EGDF was established in 2007, so it was 18 years ago. And the reason to establish EGDF was that we wanted to have some kind of influence also in the politics. Because already 18 years ago, it was obvious that EU politics are going to affect quite a lot to the games industry. And that's what we have been doing last 18 years. So trying to, for instance, influence what is going on into in EU level. And I think that, well, I have been in the industry over 20 years, and a lot of things have changed. But maybe the one thing which has changed quite drastically is how much the regulation we do have at the moment. So if we think about, for instance, European Union area, so here is a list of different kind of regulations which are at the moment affecting to the game development in Europe. So there is financial regulation, there is privacy regulation, data protection regulation, there is incoming regulation or already existing, partly existing regulation in artificial intelligence and commercial practices and everything like that. So if we think about the games industry like 18 years ago, it was pretty much like a Wild West. There wasn't too much regulation, but now there is a lot of regulation on place. And one of the reasons due to kind of being aware of these regulations is that there is some new regulations coming. Not only regulations, but also some new funding schemes and something new coming. And today I'm trying to give you a glimpse of what is going to happen in next 4 to 5 years. So let's go. So there it is kind of separated to 3 different columns. And first one is access to funding. Second one is named as access to a route to the top of the value chain. So basically what kind of regulatory measures there will be. And then there is access to talent. And if we start from the access to funding, one of the big things taking place starting from 28 is MFF, which is the, let's say the easy way to say it is the budget of EU. So it's the new budget proposal for EU where we are going to spend, or whether EU is going to spend money between 28 and 34. And of course, when they are preparing it, our mission is to make sure that also the game industry is mentioned in that budget proposal. So in different programs, like Agora program, I guess that you will hear more about Agora program today, and other programs which also affect to the games industry. So basically it's about the funding, how much funding we are able to get for the game industry in the future. Another part of this access to funding is GBER, General Block Exemption Regulation. So GBER is something which basically regulates how the national governments can invest to the games industry. So audiovisual industries are already in the GBER, and in EGDF our proposal is that in the future Also, the game industry should be under the GBER, which would make it far easier for national governments to invest to their local games industries. And that's definitely something we have been advocating for a while, and we continue doing so also in the future. Then go to the regulation part. So I think that the most discussed, at least in Finland, is DFA, Digital Fairness Act. It's an act which is going to take place around 2030, so not quite tomorrow, but in 2030. But it's now under construction. And one of the things when we talk about or think about EU is that you have to influence early enough. So even though it seems that it's far away, like 5 years away, if you want to really have your say in the regulation, you have to start it 5, 6, 7 years before it takes effect. Basically, when you get aware that there is this kind of regulation coming. And the reason why DFA is so lot discussed is it potentially affects quite a lot to the free-to-play mobile games, and especially virtual currencies inside the free-to-play mobile games. And in EGDF, it has been one of our priorities to kind of try to tackle those kind of ideas. For instance, that inside a mobile game, every time when you use the gems or diamonds or whatever you have previously bought, you should kind of make a consent to the different kind of agreements and basically have a lot of pop-ups before you can utilize those gems or diamonds. So it's one of the priority areas for us at the moment. Another incoming regulation is child sexual abuse material, which kind of requires, or this is about the DFA. Though why there is my Swedish colleague Pierce Bär's forehead is that there is actually an ongoing case in Sweden with Star Table against local consumer protection authorities, and that's definitely something which might be defining the future of also DFA. So another is child sexual abuse material, CSAM, which would require regulation and new chat monitoring obligations. So it's unclear at the moment what is going to be inside it, but there is kind of our fear about that is that it makes, for instance, so strict rules that they are quite impossible for developers to follow. And of course there is also, when we talk about monitoring, there is also concerns about the privacy of the users or players and that kind of stuff. Then there is ADAS, which is basically implementation of the EU digital identity for the age skating. So at the moment, the developers or the game studios, they don't actually know what age their players are. But ADAS is meant to be kind of core for that problem. And the ADAS is something which is basically taking place already to some quantity already in 26, or beginning of the year 26. And ADAS is basically, it's a good idea, but it's quite a complicated system. And when we think about the upcoming ADAS framework, it only provides the information at this point, is the player underage or is he or she over 18. So for instance, it doesn't give us any help when we think about, for instance, following PEGI ratings and doing that kind of things. But it's definitely something which is coming, and well, they have planned it to start in beginning of the 2026. Then there is Digital Markets Act, and I think that this is another topic we have been discussing quite a lot. And the reason for that is that the kind of core of the Digital Market Act is that those gatekeeper platforms like Apple and Google should open their app stores for third-party stores. And as you might have noticed, there is actually a lawsuit going on at the moment because Apple decided to sue the EU Commission about this DMA being unfair for them. So this is, I don't think that this is going to affect to the implementation of DMA anyway. It's just a bump on the road. DMA is present and it will stay present, but this is kind of tactics for Apple to make things a little bit harder and go to the fallback positions because this negotiation has been going on for a while now. Then there is AI Act. So basically AI Act is for AI. And as I said already, it's already partly in force. So it's three-part act, and the last part of the act is taking force in the summer of 26, so less than a year. And this is basically, for game industry point of view, there is many aspects in AI Act, but the biggest one is maybe about the copyrights. So how can we ensure using AI that the material is copyright free, for instance, if it's used for creating gameplay or something like that. So AI Act is definitely something we are also looking for, how it should play for the games industry. And then there is this digital and green omnibus, which was known as a CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Recording Directive, so reporting the directive. So it's basically about what kind of sustainability rules companies should follow. So when it comes for the ecological things, or diversity, or salaries, or that kind of stuff. And CSRD was already planned to take place in the beginning of this year, but there is a delay, and they have kind of eased up some parts of the regulation, and named it again as Omnibus Directive. And then there is, of course, things which affect us also, like EU visa policies, how the game developers, individual ones, can travel between countries, work in different countries, and there is going to be some changes in that area, also in the new visa policies. And again, the MFF, because it is a big thing. The EU budget is around, in this period, EU budget is around 2 trillion euros, and it's anticipated that also 28-34, the budget is going to be around 2 trillion euros. So we are looking, of course, as mentioned, our ways to get as much as possible of that funding to the games industry. Yes, but this is basically what to expect during next years or so in the front of EU directives and regulation. And our aim is, of course, as said, to follow what is going on and influence to the different kind of directives and regulations so that they make the gaming development in EU area possible, for instance, and of course that we are able to get funding for the game development in the future better than we maybe get now. But that's basically it.
Question about how though these regulations affect shoestring budget studios or solo indie developers and smaller entities like that?
Well, basically the regulations apply to everyone. So that's the story. Of course, it depends if it's regulation or directive. If it's directive, it's implemented differently in different European countries. If it's regulation, then it's basically same in all of the EU area. But practically, if you are a small company, basically flying under radar, and you don't make a lot of money, and you don't get a lot of attention, it's quite possible that the different kind of things won't be noticed, because having a regulation is one thing and enforcing it is another thing. So, for instance, if we think about my prime example is China, there is a lot of regulation in China in place, but they don't enforce it, for instance. And then one day they decide that let's enforce this, and then it kind of covers everything or applies to all.
Thanks.
But the general remark is that EGDF is constantly monitoring what is going on. And for instance, we are passing the information to our members, and our members will pass it to their members, so game studios. So don't be worried, you are covered. Okay, but thank you.